Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. Thanks for being here. Today, our guest is Sylvia Hall. She is the creator of Lifted Naturals Probiotics. She shares her journey of feeling terrible to figuring out how she can feel great. In this episode, we talk about being your own advocate, how rules and overconsumption in the wellness industry can lead to stress, fear, and worry, and how emotional awareness can be as important as what is on our plate. I really love that we're talking about this because I've seen this with myself and others. Sometimes the stress of being perfect and eating the right things, that could be more detrimental than the actual things that we're eating. So I love her explanation of all of this and what her viewpoint is because I found it really helpful. Sylvia is the owner of a probiotic company she founded as she was walking through her journey, which she talks about in the episode. It is called liftednaturals.com. I'll link it in the show notes and make sure you go and check her out if you want to follow her or check out her probiotics. I love how we talk about the mindset piece in this episode when it comes to health. It is a very big missing piece I see when speaking to a lot of women, and it's something that's really helped me with my journey as well. So as always, if there is a topic that you would like to learn more about or a guest that you'd like to see on my show, send me a message. There's that text function now on Apple Podcasts where it'll say text the show. You can send us a message. I love to hear your feedback. And we also have an email, so you can look to the show notes for that as well. If you haven't already left us a review, please do so as it really helps us get the word out. And make sure you are subscribed. Wherever you listen to podcasts, it gives you a little notification so you don't miss an episode. Have a wonderful week, and here is Sylvia. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Learning to Glow. Today we have Sylvia Hall. Welcome to Learning to Glow.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So happy you're here. We're going to talk about some fun stuff today, but you are the founder of Lifted Naturals. If you could just tell us a little bit about what you do, what your company does, and then we will go from there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So my company was born from struggle, my own personal struggle. I was struggling to feel like myself, struggling with the mood support options that were given to me. They were not actually serving me. They were zapping my creativity. They were zapping my sensuality. I just felt like there had to be a better way to feel better. And so I went down this rabbit hole of looking for natural solutions. And when I discovered the gut-brain connection and how specific probiotics could help with mood, I felt like a light bulb just went off. And it was from there that I began to buy different probiotic formulas and test them out on myself. I've always been really sensitive. So that means like my first cup of bottomless coffee in college, I was singing, rhyming, rapping, dancing, the same goes for alcohol. I don't really partake too much because I'm just so sensitive to it all. And so I used that sensitivity as a gift and really tapped into how I felt when I would take different probiotic strains. And I was doing the research and I would match up my research with trying it out on myself. And it was just like, I don't know, a few months of playing with this that I realized I think I can do better than what's on the market. And I just started calling around to different manufacturers to see if they could bring my vision to life. So it was just really a necessity and a personal desire for better. At that point, I was already a mom and I just had this like mama bear kind of anger, if you will, that I hadn't been given better options and that the options I had been given felt like they were taking more than they were giving. And so it really came from that necessity. And, I think there's a saying about creativity is how does it go? Necessity is the mother of invention or something like that. I had a need and I found my own solution. And it was that feeling of like, okay, now I need to share this with other people because this is life-changing.
Oh, I love that. Before you hit this kind of challenge with postpartum, were you a pretty health conscious person or were you was this kind of a new journey that you had to take down because you were like, okay, I need to change things, or tell me about that?
Yeah, that was a little bit one of my awakenings of
Mm.
more of being an advocate for myself and maybe not just going down the path that everyone traveled. It was like, no, this isn't working for me. And so that was one of my few awakenings that I had of like, no, there's sometimes you have to advocate for yourself in a way that doesn't make sense to anyone else. And so my youngest was around 5 during that time. And I like to say like it was still a postpartum issue. Since having my kids that are now teenagers, I've learned that it takes about 12 years for the woman's body to remineralize after birth. So even when you're almost up to the teenage years, you're like recovering from giving birth. And so just reshaping the way I looked at that as far as ways to support my mind, body, and spirit from the perspective of what it had done, to bring life into this world. And so, yeah, that's always an interesting, like, wait, what's the timeline? If you're talking postpartum, like everyone just thinks of a little bitty baby and a mom that's trying to find their way, but it extends so much more beyond that. And no, I definitely use that experience as one of those kind of dark nights of the soul where I said, there's got to be a better way to feel better and to kind of pave my own way into the wellness world, which has been interesting. We'll have to kind of loop through because it's like a spectrum. And once you go so far to the other side, then you find like this natural wellness world is just also a little bit kooky with stressing out about everything. So I've been full circle as far as, oh, wait, maybe things are a little different than they once seemed. And then you keep going down the road and you're like, but maybe also I need to find my own happy medium with things. And really my biggest takeaway is always just to be your own advocate and listen to your own mind and body as far as the messages that you're getting about how you're feeling. And if there is, a hint or a nudge that there is a better way for me to experience life than what I'm doing right now. And that was definitely for me, the knowing that I had.
I have kind of chills right now because I really relate to what you just said. I've been through something very similar, and with my family and with this wellness experience that I've had, it has been a journey as well. And so I want to talk more about that because I could really relate to that. And, when you sort of have an issue that is going on and it could be health related, it could be, for me, it was with my child. But it really opened a door for me to say, okay, this is the way like a lot of my friends are going or the way the mainstream is going, but that's not working for me. And I had that nudge too of like, I need to maybe look into something different. And I did go down the rabbit hole, and I'm so grateful that I did because it really served me. But yeah, I want to hear more about your story when it comes to that. And what, when you say you kind of went in a place with the wellness that kind of made you go, okay, wait, maybe this is too far. You said kooky. Like, tell me more about that because I'm really interested.
So every coin is two sides. So there's the health and there's disease. So when it comes to my passion for helping people feel better, I found that, wow, we're really spending a lot of time on this dis-ease. And I use that word like a space, like there's a lack of ease in our body because I believe our bodies are innately very wise and life itself is life word. And so our goal is not really necessarily to, and I was hoping you would take offense to this, but less learning to glow, but remembering that we are a glow. So you don't have to learn anything. Actually, it's an unlearning of all the blocks of the beautiful life force that brought you into this world and keeps you alive. Like we don't have to worry about, am I breathing enough right now? Is my heart beating enough? It's that innate wisdom that for me is so soothing and so reassuring to my nervous system. And I feel like when I left the mainstream medicine, which felt like it was just not serving me, and I went fully into this wellness world, I realized, oh, we're afraid of everything over here. Everything is going to get us. Everything is toxic. Everything's going to kill us. Everything's taking, and it's like, I don't want that. And so it was a realization of really we get what we focus on. And in the wellness world, there seems to be a very strong emphasis and focus on all the things that could go wrong. And for me, that's just not the way to health. It reminds me of somebody who's absolutely committed to eating healthy and they're super focused on what they're eating. And yet they don't understand how their emotions are impacting their day-to-day life. They're inside on screens all day long, hiding behind windows, not getting natural sunlight into their eyes and on their skin. So to me, there's so much more than just your food diet. There's so much
Yeah.
more than just supplements, even though, like I said, probiotics have changed my life, but it's not like the be all end all. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And so for me, it's about kind of stepping away from the dogma and the rules and getting back into the flow of the natural world, of the natural rhythms, and enjoying life rather than just constantly chasing and seeking healing and health, because it's so backwards. Because why do we want all that? To live our life, to use our creative gifts to really show up in a big way. But so often we get caught in the spiral of just healing and health that I think a lot of people lose touch with why they even wanted to feel good in the first place.
Yeah, and also when you consider the amount of disease that can come from being in a stressed out space and state. And, I'm very familiar with this. And I did go through a stage like this where you're just stressed out to go out to eat and, you don't want to do anything that's not. And then every day you hear something new online, like we're so overloaded. Oh my gosh, now I can't do this. And then you just go, I can't do anything. And then that just is, it's depressing, it's stressful. And that's why I don't subscribe to that type of wellness. And I don't love the fear mongering that I see as someone who has guests that come on and shares with my audience. It's like, it's really important that we don't go there because that is so harmful and people don't really realize that.
Yeah, stress is the weakest link for sure. Goodbye. Like if you're stressed and if you're carrying that stress, to me, it negates any other of these wellness practices that we're putting in to place.
Yes.
For me, like if I don't, I like to make sure I balance out my carbs with protein. Just generally, I notice I feel better if I have some protein. But I'm not ever counting anything, right? It's like the idea of like counting how many grams of protein. Like I have no idea. I just know that if I throw some cheese in there or a grass-fed meat stick with, my glass of orange juice, I just feel so much more balanced. So for me, it's about just paying attention to how we feel and how we feel our best. But when we say the wellness world and then we talk about all these rules and all these fears, it's like that's a sickness world. And that's the same way about the mainstream. So often it's like healthcare. It's like, I think what you're talking about is sick care. So how do we find that happy medium of just truly living and health? And I do think it has less to do with the hyper focus on what we're eating and instead more about the experience of our environment. Like you said, the stress. So often people will say, well, I'm not stressed. Like, what would I be stressed about? I have a great life. Like the way you're being is dripping in stress. And I say that from love and I say that from a mirror perspective, like looking in the mirror and saying, you're not stressed. I'm not stressed. What I could be stressed about, right? And yet there's a way that I'm being that is showing me where the stress is. It's in my psyche, it's in my cells, it's in my language, it's in my mannerisms. So just finding ways to slow down. And that is one of the key ways to signal safety to your nervous system is just to slow down. When we rush through everything, it's a pattern of frenzy that sends the signal of like something's not right. And I am a chronic hurrier. Like I'm rushing and I can't even tell you why or where I'm trying to get to. And so just bringing loving awareness to this, laughing about it, being willing to be the example and saying, but I'm working on this. And I can feel the difference when I slow down intentionally and really manage that emotional aspect and that, once again, environment more so. Like, for instance, I'm in a room now with tons of windows and I could be fooled into thinking I'm getting vitamin D or natural sunlight into, no, it's blocked through these windows. And so if we don't get outside and signal to our body what time of day it is, it can wreak havoc on our hormones in so many different ways. So really just getting outside, getting that fresh air. You go on a walk, it's like the ultimate multitasking because you're getting that exercise, you're getting the fresh air, you're getting the sunlight. So for me, it's so much more than just what's on our plate. It's more about the environment and the emotional awareness that we can bring to the table to clear it out.
I talk about walking all the time on this podcast because I just am such a fan and it's a new excitement for me. Before COVID, I just thought it was a waste of time. I did not walk. I didn't care to walk.
Were you a gym gal or what did you do before walking?
I was like, if it's not like really hard and high intensity, it's not worth my time. I
Whew.
just thought walking was just a waste. And,
Mhm.
I also come from a background of like very disordered exercise patterns. And it was the only thing I could do during COVID. And it was something that I could do to get outside with my kids. And the more and more, it was like, it became such a hot topic too. And I was like, dang, like, the benefits are endless. They're never ending. And so I just started walking, walking, walking. And now it's like my favorite thing. And I do it, I walk more now in this past year than I ever have. And it's just been amazing. And now I know how silly it was to think like that it was a waste of time. And I love that you do get that sunlight and you do hear the birds. I mean, there's so many studies talking about just hearing nature, how important that is for us. And you talked about when you realized the gut brain, that was something that was really helpful for you when you were not in a good spot. What were some other things that you found? And you just mentioned being outside for the hormones. What are some other things that you incorporated?
Well, I feel like the biggest thing that has made a difference for me is that emotional awareness
Yeah.
of the way I'm being. So I think a lot of times we may have a habit of, for instance, like, man, when I hang out with that friend, when I get home, like I have a headache. And so we start to think, well, what is that friend doing? And I think what I've begun to really explore is how am I responding when I'm around that friend? So less about the friend and more about me. Less about what they're doing and who they're being. And sure, it's actually an indicator. They act a certain way, but it brings up a part of me. And that part of me, it gets uncomfortable or begins to um, shapeshift and show up in a different way that's not authentic to who I really am. And so bringing more and more of that awareness to the people pleasing, to the lack of boundaries, to the masking of who I really am or what I believe. And yeah, COVID for sure was a time of no matter what, people believe different things and it was very tricky. Like and it doesn't matter which side of the fence you were on, like you were very passionate about it and you were upset at the other side. And so it was such a wild time to really begin to bring more and more emotional awareness. So another thing though, if I'm going to just jump, is into grounding. I love grounding. I love barefoot on the earth. And I have a couple of grounding shoes that allow me to not be so barefoot if, it doesn't feel like that's a good idea. Hands straight onto a tree if you can't put your feet straight onto the earth. And you can be subtle about it because everybody, oh, there's the tree hugger. Like we're playing it cool. Like, what? No, I'm just checking out the bark. But that is a way to ground as well, is to touch a tree, feet on the ground. And that really it sends signals very, very quickly to your entire body that are really cool and scientific that I don't have right in front of me. But the power of grounding is really cool. I'm a big believer in that. So the emotions, the grounding, the sunlight, the movement. And yeah, I love that you brought up that like over exercising, because actually, like, from what I've seen, like that sends a stress response to our body that's like, we must not be safe because we're doing a lot of really extreme movement. Whereas, like you said, the walking, like nothing's more safe than walking. We're sending that signal, and you can even have a decent pace, but it still is just this flow. I am also a lover of walking. People are going to like click off the show and be like, what is up with these ladies and walking? Like, what am I missing?
Yeah,
What
my
am I
listeners
missing?
are probably like, "Oh God, here she goes again." But yeah, it's huge, and I do think, especially in this time of my life, right? Like,
Mhm.
I am turning 48 this year, so the high intensity and dealing with hormonal issues, I've had more than one doctor, like or nutritionist. I've had holistic nutritionists. I've had different people who have worked with me and trying to get as healthy as I can, and they're like, please, Jessica, like, please stop doing these things, please stop waking up so early and killing yourself. And I haven't done that for a few years, but it's just nice to realize that I'm getting so many more benefits. It's actually better for me.
Mhm.
And I think that's the truth with like what you were saying about eating. What you're describing is you're just very intuitive about how you eat and what you eat. And you're able to pay attention to, okay, I know when I pair this together, I feel better. And I think it's a thing that a lot of women don't have the ability to do because they have been told to do a certain thing for so long, or they've chronically dieted and they don't even know what their body needs anymore. It's like we kind of get far removed from truly listening to what our body needs. And I think having that awareness of that stress and that extreme, like we have to do everything perfectly, and how it's true. Like a lot of people don't talk about how the emotional and the stress is so detrimental to our health. And they think, well, I'm eating this way and I'm getting my steps in, so I'm healthy. But then they're not, like they're not sleeping,
Yeah.
or they're up with anxiety, or, and they're not healthy.
Yeah. So listen to this fun joke. I would be like, I am not a perfectionist because I'm really not. I just have incredibly high standards for myself. So like what I expect myself to do, it's not perfect. Like I've never really been one of those. I used to be a runner in track, and my track blocks, I would set them a little crooked just because I don't have that straight perfectionist eye. And my sister would come along and move them because she was a senior and I was a freshman. We got to run together. It was really fun. But I've always kind of been a little crooked as far as like just not that vision of perfectionism. So I was able to fall under of course, I'm not a perfectionist. Like I can't even put my blocks straight. And yet I have a very high standard of what I expect of myself and others. So it's like this really high standard is similar to a perfectionism in the body, in the nervous system. So like giving yourself some grace, giving yourself a break, letting off the gas. Those are all really great ways to just send the signal of safety to your nervous system. And I've mentioned that a couple of times now, slowing down, and all under the guise of letting our nervous system know we're safe. So if our nervous system feels safe, then it can do all these amazing things like digestion and maintain a healthy weight, like all on its own. Like we don't have to do all these things. We just have to tell our nervous system we're safe. We're not being chased by a bear. We're not going to get eaten by a tiger. We're safe. It's safe to slow down. You're safe. And just that signal of safety, I think, is the ultimate exhale that we as women deserve and are yearning for.
So if I know I'm thinking of people right now that are going to be listening to this that are not like that. I mentioned earlier, like you're always rushing and hurrying sometimes. That's kind of like the mom I'm thinking of in my head that is like very rushy, very like hurried. They eat fast, because they don't have a lot of time, or they eat while they're watching their phone because they haven't been able to sit down and relax and look at their phone. So they're going to do it while they eat. What are some tips, or like, how did you do it from kind of going to that state of mind and then wanting to listen to this and say, I should take it slower, but I don't know how, or like, that just seems like impossible to me.
Well, I feel like without the awareness that you're doing it or that it's a problem, you're never going to stop. So then you take a look at like, what is my desired outcome and what is my default future? So the default future is if I don't change anything and I just keep rushing everywhere and I keep eating fast and I keep living my life in this frenzy, what is that default future? And just being willing to be really honest about what maybe it's not a problem. We make these decisions based on either a pleasure and reward or the pain and consequence. So we're either trying to avoid the pain. And a lot of people, when they rush and there is a consequence down the road, our health will suffer. There will be a signal. It will start as a whisper. It could get louder to a scream if you don't pay attention. So for me, it's like, what is the desired outcome? Well, I want peace of mind and peace in my body. I want to feel good in this moment and stop believing that there is better than here. And the rushing comes from a sometimes subconscious belief that there is better than here. So sometimes just a reminder that there is not better than here. Here is where it's at. And that could be the one liner you use. Here is where it's at. I am here now. Be where your feet are. There's a lot of little zingers you could use to help anchor you in this moment rather than constantly chasing this imagined future that we never get to. It really is from this illusion of either not enoughness, like we're not enough here and now, so we need to get out there, or just a lack of awareness that we're even doing it. So somewhere between those two, most people will probably identify with either that the self-worth of just trying to get somewhere to create something to avoid an emotion or to try to evade the moment, and the other is, like I said, maybe just not even realizing you're doing it. Like for me, it took my kids saying like, where are we going? Where are we hurrying to? And like, they were so used to it that I was surprised they could even mirror it back to me because it was so normal. I'm like, well, when I get home, I got to do this and this, but I always have to do this, this, and this. It's probably what I said was like, throw the laundry in and switch that. And, I've got kids that do sports and there's always things that need to be washed. And so it's like, but there is not better than here. And just continuing to remind myself that is useful for me to get more and more anchored in this moment. And then there's one other thing I just thought of that I want to share, which is how noisy the world is. So you were talking about, oh, it's really great that you've used your intuition to be able to tell how you feel best, what you eat. But really, like, the noise that we allow into our mind, oh, it's wild. So I don't watch the news, but I have a news feed and I open it sometimes on my laptop. I actually continually delete Facebook from my phone because, oh my gosh, it's such a time suck. And I'm like, how did this happen? I'm scrolling. I literally can't tell you. It's like some sort of mind warp. And so bringing loving awareness to that, I don't want to do that. Delete the app. Now, I don't delete my account. I just delete the app from my phone. And if you've ever used Facebook from your laptop, you'll experience that it's not as addictive. They've mastered something with the phone that makes you just not even realize you're doing it. So yeah, for me, that information overload is very, very real. And the louder the input, the harder it is to really hear what our own thoughts and ideas are saying. So when you sit down to relax, I just want to invite you to bring some awareness to, if your phone is in your hand, that's not called relaxing. It's okay. You have a phone. I have a phone. We scroll. Like, you want to catch up on things, but do not count that as rest. And once you begin to see that, like, well, what is rest then, Sylvia, Miss Boss Rest Lady? Like, it's when my phone and my laptop are not, I kick my feet up. I have some silence. If I have my journal in front of me, that's nice. I'll jot down some ideas. But paper is fine. No paper is fine. That to me is rest. And having that clear idea of what rest is for me is really useful. So something to bring some awareness to, maybe.
I love that. Yeah, I love what you said too earlier about being aware that you're even doing these things first, because of obviously, why would you need to change something that you're not aware could be affecting you? I mean, even like just knowing that I had issues with digestion. That's when I was told, if you're really distracted or you're eating too fast or you're not chewing enough, that can contribute to your digestion issues. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, just being aware of that. A lot of people don't even know these things. And especially if you eat fast, you're not chewing your food, and that is going to lead to issues. So that is something that is really important, that we become aware, and I even learned some of this stuff too. If there is an issue that you're having and you're doing something that you don't even know is causing the problem to be worse, like, knowing about that is so helpful. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I understand too, there's a paradox in here. We're saying, don't consume as much information. It's overwhelming. But also, here's some information. Chew your food or it won't digest.
Right.
So like, there's this crazy, wild, like, I love to bring up the paradox that nothing matters and everything matters.
Yeah.
So like, being okay with this idea that information can really help your life, and also information can be overwhelming to your nervous system and cause you to feel more stressed. Like, can you live in that beautiful in between, that yes and? It's not black and white. There's so much gray, and we're just swimming in this gray, trying to find our way. And for each person, it takes a different deciphering. But to me, I just have to point out the ultimate paradox that we're saying here, which is like, don't do this, but do this. And that's what the wellness world did too, that made me so crazy, right? Like, hey, some of these things are dangerous. Like, oh yes, they are. Actually, all of these things are dangerous. Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Oh, now that I'm scared, fear's driving my life. My nervous system's a wreck. So like, there's that beautiful paradox of finding your own in between, of getting to enjoy podcasts, but also you don't want to listen to podcasts all day 24/7. So finding that flow, your own individual flow, that only you can know what is best for you.
That's so true. And really also, you getting a piece of information, I've seen this with people, your brain is going to make that mean something. When I hear information like that, I can take it, process it, and be like, okay, good to know. I'm going to try and shoot for that. I don't go, everything is hard. Like, I don't change a neutral thing to catastrophe. And I know it's hard for a lot of people. They do that. And so that is good to be aware of. If you're doing that constantly, like, take a step back, take a break from all of the stuff that you're trying to learn. Go listen to something that makes you laugh or like that's entertaining. Take a break from all the, and watch who you're getting your information from, because a lot of times if it's coming in a fear-based, this is like the end of the world. I mean, every time I go on Instagram, I see this information delivered that way instead of like, hey, if you're working on this, try this. And if, when you think of it, like, it doesn't have to be like, never, ever have this food again. Like, I just hate that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, like, as adults, I think we have to learn how to not catastrophize everything and just
Mm-hmm.
stress ourselves out, because a lot of the information that we get in life is like, we interpret it, the way we do that, and the meaning that we give it and the stories that we create is what brings the stress more than
Yes.
anything.
Yes, that's exactly right. That is the meaning making machine that we have, and knowing thyself, that if you have a tendency to catastrophize or a
Yes.
tendency to go all the way out on something, then maybe slowing down that consumption is even more important than ever for you.
Yeah, yeah, especially because it's all over the place. So, when you were like getting into the wellness space in the beginning, what did the people in your life think about it? And were you kind of at a place where you didn't care what anybody thought? Because when I started going down the rabbit hole of trying to get my son better and my family better, I had friends who would say things to me. They would make comments, and I know they thought I was super weird at the time. But what was your experience with that?
I kind of led the way within my family. Like since then, now my sister, my mom both take our probiotics and love them. And in fact, my sister is one of my best saleswomen because not literally, but she'll just tell people about it. Because I found that if I say, hey, I actually have a probiotic that could help with what you're talking about. I made it myself, or, my manufacturer made it. Like it just comes across as, but when someone else says, my sister, she got this wild idea and she followed the nudge, and now she's got this boom in business, and you should check out her products. Like it just really works well. So luckily for me, those core people in my group of like, they were a little surprised, like, oh, we're doing this thing, we're trying this, but have also seen a lot of benefits. But I feel like in this life journey, we have these soul contracts, things we came here to learn, things we came here to discover. And for me, getting over what other people think of me was not in the contract. It was already done. I've just
Yeah.
not really ever had that feeling of like, well, what do they think about me? And I think that's because I've had a very strong connection to self. And so if I'm frustrated with myself, then I'm frustrated because I know I can do better. It's that high standard I told you about. So it's less about what do they think about me. The question is always, what do I think about me? I believe I'm capable of a lot. I believe I can use my impact and my intuition to help the world. And so if I'm not doing that, then then I have to change course or try something different. For me, the idea of acceptance has never really been part of the gig. Like I had this little postcard on my wall as a teenager. It said, you laugh because I'm different, but I laugh because you're all the same. So it was like, I'm so different, right? And then you come full circle and like, wait, we're all actually really different. But some people have a stronger need for belonging and feeling like they fit in. But I always reflect that back to, what's your connection like with yourself? If you're struggling with feeling like other people aren't accepting you or approving of you, the question is always, how am I accepting of me, and am I approving of me? And for me, that reflection has always been a very powerful tool to keep me on track and to magnetize the right people into my life. Because there's some people that are kind of put off by that, right? There's some people that find it annoying that I'm not looking for their acceptance. And then there's other people that are like, wow, this is really cool. I want more of this. I want to own my own magic too. So even though I was kind of the front runner of let's try some natural things, that because this other stuff doesn't seem to be working, I don't feel like it was really ever like trying to convince anyone of anything. That's the beautiful place too, when it's not like, hey, we should all do this. Because as Byron Katie says, there's 3 areas of business: your own business, other people's business, and then God's business, or if you prefer, the universe's business. And I'm fine with either word. But the actual suffering happens when we leave our own business. So when we get into God's business and say it shouldn't be snowing, or we get into other people's business and say they should do X, Y, and Z with their medical choices or probiotics, like that's the real problem is getting into that other area. But I can always stay in my own business and say, this is what I've learned. This is what I've experienced. So even for my husband, who didn't think at all he needed a probiotic, we realized, oh, you're in the bathroom a lot shorter time since you've started taking your Lifted Naturals probiotics. Like little subtle things that we normalize. We don't even realize maybe digestion was a problem for him. Whereas I had always kind of known like, oh, my digestion's kind of off. And that's how people say, how do I know if a mood probiotic would help me? There's two main areas that you're struggling with, digestion and mood. And if those two areas you're like, yep, I need some help with that, then you would probably be a good candidate to try a mood probiotic, which is just, simply the strains that we've selected are chosen because of their ability to help with the nervous system, the stress response, the gut-brain connection, and still all do all of that digestive stuff that your regular probiotics can do.
Oh, I love what you were saying earlier about really not caring about what other people think. And I think that if a lot of times when we do, maybe there's some doubt, like maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe that's why I feel like if you're coming from a place of confidence, it's not as much of a worry. If you're confident in what you're doing and like your choices and all of that, it really helps. But I'd like to learn a little bit more about your probiotics. You were telling us about it. So you're saying a lot of the times it's mood or digestion issues.
Yeah, usually both. Like that's the person who wants to look into a mood probiotic is someone who's like, I'm either not as happy with how regular I am, or I'm in the bathroom too long, or I can't go out to eat because I'll have to run straight to the bathroom. That's embarrassing, or any sort of digestive kind of trouble. And then the mood, just feeling like there's just constantly a flex that's not positive, that you could use just a little more support. And so by, those two issues, it really is it's not random is kind of what I'm here to say. They're connected, right? They're the gut and the brain. They talk to each other. It's two-way communication. The gut talks to the brain and the brain talks to the gut. And so the probiotics that we've created are essentially helping that communication be more clear and be more loving. And
that's
so,
cool.
Yeah, we have 4 different formulas, and we started the company with just one. It was where my idea came from. Like, I want to include these strains. I want to include this prebiotic. And then as I continued to grow the company and listen to customer feedback, I realized a few things. And that is that not everybody likes prebiotics. And so now 2 of our formulas are probiotic only. And then we have 2 that are probiotic and prebiotic. And then also learned about the power of spore-based probiotics, which are just much better able to handle I would say if you're dealing with a really tricky digestive issue, spore-based is where it's at. You kind of skip the traditional lactobacillus and bifidobacteria and go straight to the spore-based, which is our green labeled formula. So having 4 formulas means that more than ever, when someone is struggling, I feel pretty confident that we've got a formula that will work for them. And sometimes when they reach out and I can say, okay, what are you dealing with? And then I would start with this one. Every once in a while, it takes a little bit of trial and error is what I'm getting at, because just when you think you understand these bacteria, everyone's microbiome's different. And so it can be a little different. So we do stand behind our product. So if you give one a try and you don't love it, we're happy to get you a refund, or even better, to send you a replacement formula, maybe one of the other 4 that would be more likely to help you with what you're specifically dealing with.
So is this like one time a day? And then also my other question is, do you feel like this also, because, when I first learned about probiotics, it wasn't because of what you're talking about. People would say you need this because your immune system, you want to make sure that your immune system is boosted. So do you find that it also helps with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And then, go ahead.
Those are usually the 3 focus: the mood, digestion, and immune. Just that immune stuff has gotten out of control with everything that's happened in the last few years. So I kind of almost just like left that alone because, without trying to make any claims, but generally speaking, the probiotics and your immune system, they go hand in hand as well.
Okay. And then do you have one for kids?
So all 4 of our products are probiotics or probiotics and prebiotics. So there's nothing about them that's inherently for adults or not good for kids. Okay. Our bottle does say 18 and under, talk to your doctor. So that's just kind of how we've approached it as a company, but there's nothing about it that's an ingredient or like, oh, it's a mood formula. It must have some sort of herbal something. It's not. It's just all about those specific strains that I researched and found to really support that gut-brain communication. I will say though, based on body size, it's really great that you can just open the capsule and sprinkle a little bit. So if you're sensitive, if you're a small-bodied individual, starting slow can be really good just to give your body time to get used to that influx of new bacteria. So you might even have a capsule that you put into a smoothie and you open it, sprinkle a little in, close it up. Did some of the bacteria die from when the air hit? Maybe a little bit, but generally speaking, that capsule, you can use it throughout the week. And so, it's a 60-day supply that we offer and it's $30.88. So a very strong focus on affordability and accessibility that you can make one bottle potentially even last you a few months with your little ones if you just want to kind of get them a little bit of that good boost. And I'm really passionate about teenagers that need this too, because it really seems to help with those mood fluctuations that they're going through too. And like I said, there's nothing about it that makes it for adults, but I've continued to do I want to play around with what would it take to say for all ages? But, as a really small family business, we just really try to do everything as safely as possible just to stay compliant and everything for our customers who really depend on us to stay in business because they love our products.
I bet you this could be really helpful for teenagers and skin too. I've been in skincare for 20 plus years. And when your gut is dysfunctional, your skin will show it a lot of the times, especially when you're also dealing with the influx of hormones that these teenagers are dealing with. So I'm excited to try these out. I have a teenager who could use some mood boosting. So if you could tell us where to find your products, and then I'll make sure to link it in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So the best place to go is liftednaturals.com. And from there, you'll see that we sell on Amazon and we also sell directly in our online shop. So if you are someone who's already paying for Prime, like we're not trying to move people away from that. We know what it's like. You're paying for Prime, you like it quick. And so you can do that. You can access all our products on Amazon. Also, you can click over to our website, which, people always say well, should we buy directly from your shop? You're a small family business, but really it's where you love to shop. We want you to shop. So from liftednaturals.com, you can read our blog posts, read about our 4 different probiotics. We've got a couple other products too, like a magnesium complex and a micromelatonin, which is the lowest dose melatonin on the market, just when you need a teeny tiny bit of help and your sleep's off. So yeah, you can learn all about that over at liftednaturals.com.
All right, perfect. Well, I'll link that in the show notes. And thank you, Sylvia. Thanks for sharing all of this with us. It was amazing.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.